Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready for the Wot Supp podcast. With your host, Stu OG Industry Shannon and Will Warren Davey, new school formulator extraordinaire. We're talking all things supplements with insiders, athletes, experts, and more. So sit back, relax, and prepare to find out what's up.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Wot Supp podcast. This actually wasn't a scheduled episode that we'd planned to do, and we're not having a guest on today. Basically, this episode was prompted by, I guess, the metaphorical A-bomb being dropped on the supplement industry yesterday by the Therapeutic Goods Administration. So, Will and I today are going to discuss what has happened, what it means, what the, I guess, potential ramifications are for the supplement industry, for supplement manufacturers, and for the consumer. G'day, Will. Good morning. Thanks for coming on short notice. I know we both scrambled to get this one together. We've been on the phone to all the relevant people that we could possibly talk to. How are you today, mate?
Doing well, mate. I'm actually quite chuffed though, because we can do this, because this is what it started for, right? Like, this is what, when you and Maddie sat down in December last year and said, let's put a voice for the supplement industry together and actually speak about these regulations that we're talking about today. It's come full circle now. We've seen public consultation. We've seen basically reissuing of the apparently modified document. And now we're talking about actual legislation today. So it's sort of come full circle. We started the podcast to spread awareness that this was going to happen. It's now happened. And I guess today we have a duty of care to the supp industry, because a lot of our listeners are supplement store owners. A lot of them are formulators, other key people that are affected by these changes. So, mate, by all accounts, let's crack on.
Crack into it.
Dig in.
All right. So, as everyone would be aware, in late 2019, there was a proposed document that was put forth that pretty much sent chills down the spine of anyone who is involved in supplements, anyone who uses supplements, anyone who has anything to do with supplements. Basically, the way that that proposal was put forward, the way that it was worded, pretty much, I guess, gave the impression that if that were to pass in its form, that supplements would be no more. And, you know, we kind of put some information forward. We rallied together and basically got, you know, industry insiders, we got third-party experts, by most accounts, the general public, all, I guess, kind of pushing against this move towards making these changes, because let's face it, the way that it was slapped together and the things that were put in there were almost ridiculous. And I think kind of really made some people question the TGA and their understanding of this industry, their understanding of the goods. And I guess in some ways, you know, made people kind of doubt this whole system because of how stupid this thing was. Anyways, we put our case forward and we thought that some of what we had said would be listened to. We hoped anyway, you know, we put forward some really solid cases.
There was a lot of submissions, wasn't there, Stu? There was for the Save Aussie Supps movement, which was a really beautiful movement that happened at the same time as the podcast, actually, where we had supplement store owners, even old rivalries as well. Like some of the big box retailers were coming together who, you know, for the last 20 years have had turf wars. We're now actually working side by side. You know, it was on the news. It was a huge thing. And the Save Aussie Supps movement put in 14,000 submissions, you know, to sort of, you know, debate whether this was a sensible move. Because I guess as we spoke about in the very first episode, we're welcoming of regulations in a space, because we're working with, you know, stimulants, with herbal things that do have interactions that do impact things like hormones and sleep. And so like we have a duty of care to be diligent with the safety aspect. And we like that we're in a regulated industry that allows consumers to have access to safe supplements. But yeah,
we should just make the point as well, though, that to date, there have been no recorded cases of serious adverse events from any nutritional, any sports nutrition supplement being taken, other than those that were either purchased illegally or used in a manner that the product was not supposed to be used in. So basically the laws that already exist, any serious adverse event, whether it be a death or anything else for that matter, has already come outside of the way that the current laws existed. So we have really had, in my opinion, a relevant breach. There has been no reason for these changes other than the fact that there have been adverse events which were associated with people accessing illegal supplements or using supplements in a way that they should not have been used, or a way that was contrary to that was on the direction. So anyone with a logical mind, when they saw the proposal from the Therapeutic Goods Administration, said, this is ridiculous and we're in opposition of it. Of course, the supplement industry was in opposition. It was to destroy our way of life. Anyone who enjoys supplementation or a healthy lifestyle was in opposition. It destroys their lifestyle as they know it. And the general public as well. They don't want to see things become a nanny state. But I think, and this is my opinion, I think with the backlash that the Therapeutic Goods Administration had from that, it made them look like gooses. And I think there was an element of embarrassment there from for the TGA. And now what we're seeing is them just passing the law pretty much in the exact form that it was presented at first. I feel as though this is the TGA's way of going, well, you know what? You're going to embarrass us. Stuff you. We're going to put the stamp on you. We're going to put the boot in. And that's what it looks like to me. It looks like the TGA has been seriously embarrassed by an opposition that they did not expect to have in an industry that they do not understand, which they should. And they've just passed the laws pretty much in the form that they had presented them in the first.
Yeah, pretty much completely unmodified. But I think that's where, which would be cool. We could treat this as a bit of a public service announcement, though, in terms of informing people, because both you and I, Stu, we had a huge amount of phone calls in the last few hours of yesterday from fellow formulators, people putting out products. Like you and I were both working on things. I've had capsulated products I was working on as well that were literally I hit print on labels for, and these are all going to come under effect. So I think we probably have a responsibility, whilst we have an audience, to probably go through some of what we're actually facing, what's going to affect us, what time spans, and what's the practical day-to-day impacts on supplements as we love them, So, let's delve into some actual. Yeah.
All right. So before we really dig into it, I want to just make it very clear to everyone that we have this document. You won't. My camera's really crappy. I'm going to get a new one. Sorry, guys. We have this document, but we're giving our interpretation of this document at the moment. We have not been able to get in contact with the TGA as of yet. I tried to bust out a few phone calls yesterday afternoon. I'm sure their phones are ringing off the hook. So we haven't been able to get a direct statement from the TGA at the moment. Obviously, it's early in the morning, so that department is probably not even open yet. But we're going to go through this document bit by bit and give our interpretation, as well as the interpretation of other experts in the industry that we've spoken to. I've probably spoken to about 10 different people already who are involved in the industry and what they think this means for us. But one thing I want to make clear is, guys, is that we have an industry of hundreds and hundreds of innovative, driven, intelligent individuals who will press forward in some way, shape, or form. This is not Armageddon, okay? I just want to make that clear. This is not the end of the supplement industry. You're still going to be able to have fantastic supplements, but the guys on the back end, us, it just means we're going to have to put in a lot more work to make food products that are fantastic for you guys. So, this is not the bitter end of supplements as we know it. It's not the bitter end of the health food industry. It is some serious drastic changes that I feel have been made for some unjustifiable reasons. But, regardless of my opinion, this is the law. This is what we're going to be working with now. There is no changing it. We fought. We had our chance to fight it. We had our chance to oppose it, which we did, and which everyone did. And the TGA said, well, we're going to do it anyway. So without further ado, let's go through this document.
Right, yeah. Let's crack it.
All right. So This was received in an email by most anyone who's involved in supplement manufacture or what have you. It does not affect at the moment retailers too much. There's nothing stated in there about
it's all upstream stuff, isn't it, Stu? It's more so ourselves as manufacturers and distributors, more so than retail just yet. By the way it reads.
Yes, that's right. So basically, the good news, I guess the one piece of good news to be taken from this is that supplements that already exist, supplements that you've already purchased, that already sit on your shelves, you will be able to sell those indefinitely. There is no time frame on supplements that currently exist to be removed from the shelf. So that's not what what this document kind of does. So first, the name of the document, obviously, the instrument is the Therapeutic Goods Declared Goods Amendment of Sports Supplements Order 2020. Each provision of this instrument specified in column 1 in the table of comments is taken to have commenced in accordance with column 2 of the table. Any statement in column 2 has effect according to these terms. So we'll forget any of that stuff, but basically the commencement date of this document is the 30th of November 2020, which means this is the date that the laws apply from, 30th of November 2020. Now, it's important to note as we read on a little bit that there is, I guess, what would you call it, Will? A grace period
for capsulated products, at least on the bright.
Yeah. So there is a capsulated. There's a grace period for both capsulated products and for other supplementary sports foods. Unfortunately, that grace period for supplementary sports foods in general is 10 weeks, which in our terms is the blink of an eye.
It really is. It really is. When you look at the time frame of most manufacturers, how long it takes to do graphic design, label design, formulate, get samples, return, beta test those samples, run it through, flavorings. It's 10 weeks is just, it's barely enough time to basically scramble. So it's going to be quite the scramble, Stu.
Yes, definitely. So I think we'll delve straight into section 4 where they're defining what is, I guess, what are supplements that were formerly sports foods that are now going to come under scrutiny or now become, I guess, therapeutic goods. So section 4, this is part 2, section 4. I'm reading. Will, you with me here?
Yep, gotcha.
Yep. So capsule has the same meaning as in TGO 101. Pill has the same meaning as in TGO 101. So it's saying basically any pill or capsule will now no longer be able to be classified as a supplementary sports food, regardless of what it contains. Just the fact that it's in the form of a pill or a capsule, it is now is now medicine. Prohibited list means the World Anti-Doping Code International Standard Prohibited List, January 2020, published by the World Anti-Doping Agency as in force or existing 30th of November 2020. Note, the prohibited list is published on the World Anti-Doping Agency website. So if you have an ingredient contained in your product that is listed by the World Anti-Doping Agency as prohibited, it is no longer allowed in supplementary sports foods. Now, this is something that is a bit frustrating because remember that the World Anti-Doping Code does not exist for the safety of the athletes. The World Anti-Doping Code exists to limit the benefits of the athletes to be had from any form of supplementation. So if an athlete can take something that has a potential benefit on their sport, it's banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. There is no basis of safety. That's not what the World Anti-Doping Agency is for. So for what reason the general public shouldn't be able to use something that benefits them, I don't know. What's your take on that, Will?
Mate, the list on WADA, because I get this a lot, because we, particularly being in Newcastle based, there is some military bases around, and brief background in that one as well. WADA was sort of complied with, and a lot of your top level sports will look at ASADA or WADA for their directions. And you're 100% right. Like things like creatine go under scrutiny, hygenamine, like really unusual things that really have that have zero issues with LD50s. Their toxicity isn't questionable. like they're incredibly safe ingredients. And I understand in this document where it says things that are listed on the Poisons Act, like fair enough. Okay,
Oh yeah,
that's completely fine.
I think that we could all agree on that.
We shouldn't be formulating that anyway. That's already existing practice, right? Like we just don't use poisons. But in this particular case with WADA compliance, that's going to make it nearly impossible to have ingredients that we enjoy now on the shelves and efficacious doses of those ingredients as well. So that part's it's a bit of a hamstringer for formulation.
Well, I think that I think that, to be honest, the TGA has looked at we all look at World Anti-Doping List and the things that are banned on the list. And when we say the World Anti-Doping banned substances, it's got a negative connotation, right? Because these substances are used to cheat in sports. But that doesn't mean these substances are inherently bad or evil. It just means that they have a potential to benefit someone. And in sports, that's not fair. In sports, you shouldn't be able to take a benefit from an exogenous substance. But why in life should you not be able to benefit from an exogenous substance if it is shown to be safe in human clinical studies? It doesn't make any sense. So the primary reason the only reason for the World Anti-Doping Code is so that people can't cheat in sports, okay? Why this would be brought into an act that is designed for the general public's use of foods or supplementation, I have no idea why they're using the World Anti-Doping Agency as a hallmark for what we should be using in products. Fair enough. And this has always been stated to professional athletes, you should not be buying sports supplements over the shelf because they could contain compounds that are banned. Fair enough. They contain compounds that could have a potential benefit to your whatever it might be, your athletic ability, your blood flow, your endurance, your oxygenation. But why should we ban something when life is not competitive by nature? It's not like, well, my heart's healthier than yours, so I've got an advantage over you in life, so I shouldn't be able to use that. It's a very strange thing.
And you're right. Like the reason we take supplements is for a benefit. So if you're saying, well, we're going to ban anything that has a benefit on performance, well, why would you take it anymore? It's a really bizarre space. But I do know, I think in that particular section we're looking at, Stu, I think under that paragraph is a really interesting space because this will affect a lot of, a lot of formulators now. So it's also got there anything that it included in a schedule to the current poison standard or expressly identified on the prohibited list. And that includes dendrobium, that's been gone for a long time. That's nothing new. But also methylliberine, which is the chemical name for dynamine, a compound, a trademarked stimulant. Now, dynamine came about after DMHA was banned about 18 months ago. It was then followed by teacrine, which was a decent stimulant for longer term use, but dynamine was the one practical stimulant we've had that they literally so the company behind that spent $500,000 on doing human safety assessments with that ingredient to get it listed, take it off the grey area it was in before. But they've just the TGA have gone ahead and just added that to as well to the prohibited list, even though it's got literally 500 grand worth of clinical trials showing human safety on it. Now that's going to make it really hard to formulate pre-workouts, fat burners, anything at all with a stimulant base. That's because it's probably our most viable stimulant right now. Apart from just everyone just going back to straight caffeine.
It's very strange, and like I feel, and I really don't like. I don't want to come on here and bash the TGA because I've always been an advocate for the TGA. I've always said on these, we like the TGA, but to me, it feels like there's an element of laziness in this. It's like, methylliberine, I don't like the sound of that. Let's ban it. Let's make sure they can't use it. Okay. Incredibly safe. We've got a plethora of studies in humans to show this is safe. Okay. We don't have adverse events or serious adverse events on dynamine. So it's safe. We know that it has positive effects on our energy. It has positive effects on our abilities for whether it be endurance or whatever it is, cognition. So it seems like a strange thing to ban. You want to ban something that has a potential positive impact on people. I just feel there's an element of laziness in this. The next part that we go to is just that TGA 101, which I spoke about earlier, but that basically relates to anything in a capsule or pill form. So therapeutic goods standard for tablets, capsules, and pills. So anything in the form of a tablet, capsule, or pill, forget about it unless it is Ostal or Ostar listed. All right, now part 2 of the schedule. This is something that I thought, part 2 of section 3 of the schedule. This is something I thought would definitely change, especially in the wording, and it hasn't changed.
And it's probably the most, has the most implications, particularly for the very minimal, the very least packaging, but also the way that we actually name the conventions we use to refer to supplements at all. Like this is what we're going to go through now in this part 2 of the schedule is literally all the terminology that is no longer acceptable to have on supplements. And then I guess as we read through these guys, anyone listening, a lot of retail store owners, a lot of supplement lovers, you're going to understand very quickly how much our hands are tied now, because it's so just leading through some of the keywords there. For example, when goods are used, advertised, or presented for supplier to demonstrate for therapeutic use, things like gaining muscle, increasing mental focus, increasing metabolism, increasing stamina, increasing testosterone levels, reducing estrogen levels, or otherwise modifying hormonal levels, losing weight or fat, preparing for a workout, recovering from a workout. These are some of the keywords that are now considered on the in the sensitive list. And if you've ever looked at any sports supplement ever, you'll see keywords around recovery, pre-workout, the name, pre-workout. It is literally ... preparing for workout is now not acceptable terminology. Increased stamina. This is going to basically...
The other thing is too, not only can you not say those things, you cannot imply them either. So we're neither allowed to imply them. So goods for oral administration that are represented expressly or by implication as being for the improvement or maintenance of physical or mental performance in sport, exercise, or recreational activity. So anything that we believe is for improvement of performance in sport, exercise, or recreational activity, or implied that it may be for improving one of those things, comes under the schedule. Now, I think that I personally believe this will never, ever stand up in court because there are no foods that we consume as humans that we don't consume for a purpose other than confectionery. Confectionery is the only food category that we consume for purely enjoyment. Every other food we consume could be classed as one of these things. So all real foods are consumed for a reason, whether it be for energy, for life, recreational activity, sport, whatever it is. So, if you're eating a banana before you go for a workout, that would technically, be in this classification. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, well, we're just going to ban all ingredients that you guys are trying to add that give you an improvement in any way, shape, or form. But, we've got a lot of, so now that they've come back at us with, in essence, what this entire document is saying, if I was to sum it up, it's saying you cannot use an ingredient that is not generally considered to be a food. Okay, so any ingredients that you use, they need to be generally considered a food to be used. But then they've gone on to say, but only if they don't give you any kind of increased improvement or maintenance of physical, mental performance in sport, exercise, or recreational activity. So yeah, you can use food products in there as long as it can't be of any benefit to you. Now, there is no food product on the planet that is of no benefit. Now, something I want to go on to read here, Will, is if you can see section 3, IV underneath. So we're in 1A. 1A section C. Oh, sorry. Where are we? IV. A substance with equivalent substance mentioned in subparagraph I. So 1, 2, or 3. I, or I, including those that may be characterized as active in principle, a precursor, a derivative, a salt, ester, ether, or stereoisomer. Okay, so anything that could be described as an active principle, precursor, derivative, salt, ester, ether, or stereoisomer, which is everything that a human can consume. You look at sugar. Sugar is a precursor for insulin. So everything is a precursor for something. You can't just say we're banning all precursors. Everything that we consume is a precursor. So there is no way that you could possibly argue this. It's just like everything that exists that we consume can be classed as one of these things. Any active, like you can't just ban all. You can't just ban all actives. Like it's not. Not only is it not possible to police, but it is not possible to implement in any way, shape, or form, because everything that we consume. If I bake a cake, all right, that contains precursors and salts. It's like. It's really ridiculous.
It's going to absolutely cook us, because it's also going to do things like, that's going to be pretty much every nootropic gone. Most, like a lot of things that are used for stimulant bases, it's going to get rid of a lot of, like citrulline. That's a precursor to arginine. Most of the ingredients we play with are going to have a very hard time. And indeed, our labeling around them, we're going to basically just have to go back to black and gold style packaging on everything and just literally say sports supplements.
Okay, so here's the thing though. I don't think that the TGA, I hope I'm not giving them more credit than they're due here. Because I think we can clearly see that there is something very, very wrong in this government department at the moment. I would personally call for, and I think that if we could, we need to call for a review on the people that are in the TGA. I think that it really needs to be looked at, because there is something majorly wrong here. Like anyone with any sort of simple understanding of biology, biochemistry, nutrition can see that there is someone who is either just totally uneducated or inept or inadequate at their job putting these things together, and something has got to change. So I think that some sort of an inquiry needs to happen into the TGA to look at who is making these things up, because it is like, man, like I don't want to sound offensive, but it seems like it's been done by someone who has no idea about this stuff, or who potentially has never used a supplement, or has no idea about nutrition and basic biochemistry. It seems as though this has been thrown together by someone totally uneducated in this space, which is scary, because this is the government body responsible for this space, and it's worrying that they're so clueless around it.
It's more so like, I think even Stu, to make it in an even more practical sense, even not employing directly people with the experience, which is what you'd hope they would have been doing currently, but even having a consultation, like an industry body that, so we can actually have an opinion on these things. I think the Save Aussie Supps movement was probably as close we've ever had to a combined, unified voice for the industry. But even a consultation body where they can actually come to us and go, these are the proposed changes. How will this affect you economically? It's a $1.1 billion industry. How's it going to affect this massive industry in a year with, a massive, we're in a massive downturn basically right now as well. So it's a really interesting time to announce something that's going to hamstring a $1 billion industry.
Well, and that's exactly right. I think that regardless of all that, this is the law right now. And this is what's happening. We have to just deal with it. I hope that we can get together as an industry and put some sort of a civil suit or maybe something more, maybe a full-on inquiry into it together. I would definitely, throw, as much money at this as I could, because someone's head, I hope anyone with any common sense would see that someone's head needs to roll for this. Like, someone has to lose their job over this, because it's ridiculous. And it's an embarrassment to an Australian government department. Like, it's really embarrassing that we have a government body that can put something together which pretty much says anything that has a positive impact on you now needs to be classified as medicine, or you can't take it.
And ironically,
it is
not to go down the revenue path, but ironically, if anyone looks at what it costs to register a product, which is what they would like us to register with the Therapeutic Goods Association as a medicine or otherwise, and that happened to attract quite a nice annual fee. alongside that, just as a side note. So the process that's going to be involved from here forth is going to be an interesting one. I think, though, giving some practical take-homes for a lot of our manufacturing, for people who are in manufacturing and supplementally, there's obviously, and things you'll see as consumers, right? So I think Stu, I reckon we can agree, there's going to be some packaging changes for one. So I think people are going to see a difference in what we're going to, probably the classification too. So just the terms like pre-workout, terms like increasing endurance or stamina or recovery, a lot of your hormonal products. I think we're just going to see a massive shift towards packaging having very little information, which, if anything, I think is moving away from helping the consumer.
I think it's the worst thing. So the real life changes, and I hope that the TGA will be accepting of that at least. But so here's the real world changes that we're going to see happen. We're going to see a lot more food extracts start to be used. We're going to see a movement away from botanicals that would not normally be classified as food. So I think we will still see botanicals included that are otherwise eaten as food. So, for example, broccoli extracts, that sort of thing. I think that they will be allowed to remain because they're generally classified as food. But things, for example, like, I don't know, a root extract or something taken from a flower or a seed pod that is not generally consumed, I think that we'll probably see over time less and less of those inclusions. I hope that the majority of free-form amino acids will be left alone. I can't see the TGA chasing them down. To be honest, I don't think that this document is designed to target them. I think that this document is, once again, I think it's an oversight of the TGA, and they've unintentionally included a broad spectrum of things that should not be encompassed by this wording. So I think that the TGA wants to see us, this is what I'm taking from this, I think the TGA wants to see us move towards using food extracts and amino acid compounds rather than synthetic compounds. So I think we're going to see a movement towards that. I would hope that there's some leniency on botanical extracts.
I'm thinking so, but and I think when they say food products, I think the only things that won't be affected will be probably amino acid products, so intra workouts, and probably whey. They've stated in the release, if you go on the website, that proteins are exempt. So proteins are safe, guys. Proteins aren't going anywhere. So proteins are exempt. RTGs and RTDs are exempt. So these are all exempt. So as long as you're a protein, if you're a protein bar, an RTD, an RTG of some form. So if you are presented in the form of a food, you're pretty much exempt. The items that are going to come under scrutiny will be powders, and obviously, as we know, pills will cease to exist in the supplement space. Pills, capsules, tablets, anything that's in the form of something that you just take down in an easy standardized dosage will be gone. Now, what can the consumer expect to see? Like you said, Will, expect not to be able to have any information about what the product does on the product. So, it's going to have to come down to the retailers, to be honest. Like, I'm not even going to feel comfortable with online sales in this particular space. Because
no. So online comes under this code as well. So it includes it includes advertising. It includes anything that we write about the product. So you won't be able to read about what the product does, which is
concerning.
I think that we will see proprietary blends come back in a huge way. So the TGA wants us to move towards a proprietary blend rather than a full disclosure panel. So you won't see individual breakdowns of ingredients in the future. You're just going to see a proprietary blend, which has a list of primarily food extracts and amino acid compounds. I'm hoping botanical extracts as well. I'm going to be clarifying that with the TGA. So I've got a phone call with them later on today, so I can clarify some of these things for my own personal benefit. Something that I'd like to note, though, is a lot of the botanical extracts that we use at the moment are food extracts. A lot of the botanical extracts that we currently use, like broccoli was a good example, these are foods. So these things will be allowed to remain as far as my interpretation of this paper goes. So we've got some really, really cool stuff we can still use, and we will get more and more creative. Like I've just been doing some reading today about food extracts and some of the potential for those, which is very, very exciting. It's forced me to start doing some research into areas that I would have never even need delve, because when I've got synthetic versions to use, or when I've got, some sort of standardized extract that would otherwise generally not be thought of as a food, I don't need to look down the path of food extracts. So it's forcing me to look at some other things. And this is what I was saying before, Will. We've got some incredibly innovative people in this industry. We've seen Armageddon before. People have said, I remember in 2009, no, this is the end of the supplement industry. Then again in 2012, then in 2016. Now again, Armageddon, so to speak, has happened numerous times since I've been in this space. And the innovators create products that not only are, that replace the old products, but are in fact better than before, because we're still going to evolve and our knowledge is still going to grow. And we're getting some really, really intelligent people in this space who are going to make some fantastic products. So the consumer shouldn't worry that everything's going to be crap now. We're going to make some fantastic stuff still, but it will come under, we will make sure that it's within the guidelines of what can be classified as a supplemental sports food. So people need not panic. The way that things are written on the packaging may change. The amount of, disclosure about the dosages will change, and the way that your understanding of what's in supplements by the packaging will change. But I think this is not all negative, right? Because it means that we're going to be having to educate people on what individual food extracts do, like you said, at a store level and at a customer level. And it's going to mean that people who are successful in the retail space need to be highly educated in what each of these extracts do. So we're going to see the people who just don't know jack all about the stuff in these products fall off the bandwagon, so to speak. And we're going to see some more highly educated people in stores, because they're going to need to be, in order to, I guess, not say what a product does, but say what individual ingredients can do. And that's fine. We're still allowed to do that. We're still allowed to tell people, if we've got studies to prove that, that broccoli extract does this and, causes this kind of a response, we can say that. That's just factual information. What we can't do is we can't say, well, because that is in my product also does that. We're not allowed to draw that line. We're not allowed to connect the dots for people. We're not allowed to say, my product does this because it contains this food. So it's like, I can take a banana, right? And I can tell you that this contains a large amount of potassium, and here's the benefits of potassium. And I can tell you, if you eat this banana, you will see the benefits of potassium. But then what they're saying is, if I put that banana in a smoothie, I can no longer say that the smoothie does that. I can't say that the smoothie will increase your potassium levels. I can't say that there's potassium contained within the smoothie. I can only say it's in the banana that went into the smoothie.
Yeah, gotcha. It's going to, I think you're right. It'll probably see a surge towards the retail space, because there won't be another way of explaining to customers how to use these products safely and in general how to most benefit from them, because there won't be any information online. My website will get, we'll strip our website. It's going to be off packaging as well. So the only real practical place, there's going to have to be a lot closer relationship between suppliers and retail owners, because really the only people who'll be able to disseminate information anymore will be you guys in a store setting, talking direct to consumers, educating them on what each thing does in person, because there's no other practical way we can get our information out to people anymore. So it's going to have positive, it's going to change the landscape a little bit. It'll probably push it more towards retail instead of online a bit more, because people are going to be looking for the information, and they won't be able to get it anywhere but in person, literally.
So what we will be able to do, and for anyone who's freaking out listening to that, like brand owners or anything like that, you don't have to just have a blank website. You can you can list ingredients individually. You can write articles about individual ingredients. You can say what those ingredients do on their own. And you can, but you just can't say that because this is in my product, therefore my product does this. So you can still have plenty of information on your website about what individual ingredients do. It's then up to the consumer. If he goes and has a look at your product and notices that that ingredient is in your product, it's up to him to draw the conclusions about what that product may or may not do, him or her. So we can still have information on the website. We can still have some really educational stuff, but it's going to be about I guess, educating the consumer and the retail store owner or employee about what the individual compounds do, and not drawing links between that and any given product. So we have to make sure that these products are just foods. And that's what the TGA wants us to do. They want supplementary sports foods to be just a food. Now, what they want to say though is this: they want to say, well, it can be a food, but it can't be a food that has any potential benefit. That means all foods. There is no food that we don't take for a reason. There is no food that we don't take for either sustenance, for endurance, for energy, to whatever it might be. You think of anything that you eat a chicken breast after you work out for some protein to help regrow your muscles. So any food that we consume other than confectionery is consumed for a purpose. Confectionery is the only food really, as far as I can think, maybe alcohol is the only food that we consume for enjoyment only. That's the only one that serves no potential benefit purpose, but possibly alcohol and confectionery are the only two categories. So unless you want a sports industry of confectionery and alcohol, well, we've got a whole bunch of different criteria we got to meet then.
Imagine that pre-workout with gummy bear extract or.
Well,
awesome.
Well, that's the thing. I think we may see some of these sorts of things start to happen. You can, you can get. I guess food extracts into gummies and so on and so forth. So I think we'll see a lot more lollies and stuff like that in this space. We'll probably see some lolly form amino acids and this sort of thing. And we're going to have to start seeing some more things made into foods. But I think that's long term. I think we might see that in the next 5 to 10 years. I think for the time being, the main changes that the consumer will see are some ways, basically the way that things are written. A few little extracts and I guess synthetics will change. But other than that, I think we'll be pretty well right. The other thing is for everyone to remember is that this does not cover caffeinated beverages. So there's some other questions that I need to ask the TGA about caffeinated beverages as to whether something like a pre-workout, for example, or what we used to call a pre-workout, which we now just call super fun drink.
Just training juice or something.
Well, you can't say training juice because that implies that it has a potential benefit to training.
Super fun drink. I can see that now in the next Rosebud product.
Sounds like something off The Simpsons. Mr. Sparkle. Super fun drink. But yeah, so whether they come under the Caffeinated Beverages Act or whether they come under the Supplementary Sports Foods Act, I need to clarify. So it's very hard at the moment. We need some more clarification around this as formulators so that we know if we need to put the caffeinated beverage warning on our pre-workouts or if we need to put the supplementary sports foods warning on our pre-workouts, because they're two very, very different very different spaces, and they're two very, very different documents. We don't have these kind of stipulations around caffeinated beverages. We can include all sorts of things in caffeinated beverages that we can't include now in a supplementary sports food. So it is not the end of the world. If you own a supplement store or you work in one, there'll be supplements on the shelves for many, many years to come. There will be no changes to the protein space. There'll be no changes to the bar space and to the RTG space. There will be nearly no changes to the amino acid space from what I can see. You're going to see a huge change to the capsule space because it won't exist anymore. I think you'll see a lot of those products become powdered form. Or become Ostel listed, and then the formula will have to dramatically change. And I think that's something that I should touch on as well, Will. It's not as easy as taking the product that you have in a capsule form and presenting it to the TGA and saying, can I get this Ostel listed? Because there's a very specific criteria of ingredients that are allowed to be used in an Ostel or Ostar product. And the way to think about it is, let's say that at the moment, if you want to bake a cake, Will, you have the potential to use any ingredient in Woolworths that you want, okay? You can go and use all of them. You can use any ingredient that you can find in your cake. Now, if you decide to get it Ostel listed, now we've given you 50 ingredients that you can choose from. Okay. And so you must choose only ingredients off this list I'm giving you to bake that cake. And you're like, but my grandma's secret recipe has artichoke in it. You're like, well, I'm sorry, Will, but artichoke isn't on the list. You can't use that in your product. So in order to be Austell listed, you will see a drastically reformulated product. We've seen that with some of the big Aussie brands already who have gone Austell. The product cannot be the same as it was before.
No,
it's not to say that the product is bad, but it's very hard to make a product Austell that's competitive with something that's in the supplement space at the moment.
It's just because the limitations on dosages are so extreme. Yeah, you might look at something like L-carnitine, and you can have as little as 32 milligrams as the upper limit per serve actually allowed. Now, if you look at any thermo and what the effective dose is for acetyl-L-carnitine, for example, 1 to 3 grams per day. So we're talking, 1,000 to 3,000 milligrams versus 30 milligrams. It's going to be very, very difficult unless you're going to say take 75 serves on the directions for use. It's going to be very, very hard to.
Well, you can't say that. You can't say that because those upper limits are based on the total daily intake, not based on the single serve intake. So. You can't just say take 75 serves of it. It would be up to the consumer to do that, and then they're putting themselves at risk by disobeying what's on the food label anyway. It's going to be a tricky space for us to work in, but once again, we're innovators. We grow, we evolve. Well, I've been through Armageddon at least 3, maybe 4 times already, but different Armageddons, and I think that I'm hoping that this will be, I hope, the linchpin that turns people to realize these TGA guys are a little bit incompetent and we need to look a little bit closer at them. I hope that will happen. I hope there's some sort of an inquiry into this, because it really, to me, is quite absurd and quite ridiculous. And I think it says a lot about the kind of people that we're employing in this space. We need experts. We need people who understand this stuff. And it's glaringly obvious that we don't have them. And it's very, very worrying to me that these are the people in charge of not only my safety, but my children's safety. And, now, like my son, when he's 16, he's going to go into a supplement store to buy his first product, and he won't know what dosages are in anything, and it won't be written what it does for him. He just has to buy it and hope that he's smart enough to know what it does. To me, that's not a safer environment. To me, that's a more dangerous one. He's going to see a proprietary blend, and he's going to have to go, well, I hope that it's right what they put in there. So it's scary. It's a bit scary, and it's very, very worrying. So I don't know. It's to me disappointing. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it a chance to innovate? Yes. I think we're going to see some pretty cool things happen. We're going to see some things happen that we probably didn't expect to happen. It's like you can't foresee how people will innovate in this space until they do it. And then you go, that's what we're going to do. That's the trend the industry is going to move towards. And, those kind of people are you and I, the people with our head in the books, who are reading the papers, who are understanding the research. We've been given our goalposts. We know what they are. The goalposts are about this small, but we're still allowed to produce food products. And food products we will produce.
And look, I think it might be, obviously there'll be some talk back and forth between the TGA and our industry, manufacturers included. And I think we'll obviously probably as these updates come in, we'll if any of these changes come to light that we feel the need to put out, I think there'll be a part 2 of this episode as well, Stu. So I think we've had a good overview of the preliminary documentation that's come out. We've had a good read through it section by section and given people a pretty thorough understanding. So hopefully this was of some service to people in the industry thus far. And if there are any other relevant changes, I think you'll see Stu and I back on again for a similar episode. So.
Yeah. And guys, just remember that this episode was our interpretation of this document. We have spoken to quite a few people in this industry and we've kind of collaborated our interpretations. But I will be speaking to the TGA about this and, we will chat again. If there's anything that needs clarifying, we will clarify it. So you can count on Wot Supp podcast to be, I guess, at the forefront of this. So do make sure that you subscribe to our channels, tune in, because we're going to stay on top of this.
Beautiful. Well, that was a fantastic episode. As always, valuable content. So, look, mate, let's wrap it up, Stu, and any updates we'll be sure to share with our listeners. So thanks for listening again, guys, and we hope to see you guys again. We've got an amazing guest up next who will going to start advertising shortly as well. So the next episode of Wot Supp podcast is just around the corner. But thanks again for listening.
Thanks, Will.